I gave you the graph of f of x. I would like you to sketch the graph of f prime of x. The first function, you have f of x equals to that. The function is increasing the entire time. The reason I picked this problem is because you can think about this is as y equals to x to the third, because x the third power, the fifth power, the seventh power, the curve looks like this. So for the y prime, the derivative, using the shortcut rule or using the limit definition of derivative, y prime is equals to 3x squared. So this one, when x is equals to 0, the slope is equals to 0. So that means when x is equals to 0, when x is equals to 0, which case is b, there is a horizontal tangent. So there is a horizontal tangent when x is equals to 0. I can say in this problem is when x equals to b. So it looks like, if you just look at the graph, it looks like there is no horizontal tangent. In fact, if you think a little bit deeper, there is a horizontal tangent when x is equals to 0. So in the corresponding y prime, I have to put a dot at x equals to b. So x equals to b, y prime is equals to 0, then the slope is equals to 0. All right, and then other than that, the curve is increasing the entire time. So I should have a piece of graph above the x-axis, because in this region, y prime is positive. Y prime is positive means positive slope. Positive slope means going uphill. Okay, so what does the graph look like? So it's increasing the entire time. We started with increasing a lot, so increasing a lot, and then a lot, and then as we are getting closer and closer to B, the tangent lines are getting flattened, right? It's getting closer to the shape of a horizontal line. So that means when x is between a and b and less than a, we should have a piece that goes like that, so very steep, and then eventually getting less and less steep. And then now we reach to the horizontal tangent line. And then once you pass x equals to b, so from b to c or c and beyond, it is getting less steep, and then and then eventually it becomes very steep. So less steep, less, and more, and more, right? So it will just look like this, less steep, and then go very steep, because these points, they are so high above the x-axis, so they have a big y prime. Big y prime means they have a big slope. Big slope means the tangent line is very steep. So this is f prime of x. Okay, the next graph is also a special case. So the next graph, you can see that there is a horizontal asymptote at x equals to, there is a horizontal asymptote at y equals to 0. And then this graph is very similar to y equals to e to the x. So for y equals to e to the x, and this is a pretty special case, that's why I picked this problem, y prime is also e to the x. So this one, do you see that first of all, the graph is increasing the entire time, right? If you look at the tangent, so this one is less steep, and then once you pass x equals to a certain value, it gets very steep, right? So that means the graph looks like this. When x is less than 0, the graph is less steep. So we have some lines right over here. And then once you pass x equals to a certain value, the graph becomes very steep. So we have some lines right over here. That means the graph of the given f of x is just looks like the function itself. So this one y prime is also equals to e to the x. This is a very special case that I want you to know. So this one is increasing the entire time. And then what else can we say? As x approaches to negative infinity, the slope is getting closer and closer to 0. But as x goes to the positive side, the slope goes way too steep. Okay, so the next one, we have a curve that goes up and then reach to the top and then drops like that. Okay, so that tells me when x is equals to a, there is a horizontal tangent. So when x equals to a, there is a horizontal tangent. We should graph like that. When x is equals to a, we have a horizontal tangent, and then this is going up, 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 right? Going up, and then eventually becomes a horizontal line, and they are all positive. And then they are all positive, right? So they are all positive means going uphill. Then we have a piece right over here. So from very steep to less steep, so it goes like that. And then how about A? So as you let go from A to B, the slope starts from less steep and then to very steep, and then eventually it will just reach, it will just getting closer and closer to a horizontal line. So it will just look like that, starting from, but they are all decreasing. The slopes are decreasing, going downhill. This side is going uphill. So going downhill means we have some curve right over here. So it will just get very steep, but eventually it will just take a turn and then getting closer and closer to 0. So this is f prime of x. It will just go down and then go back up to 0, because this is going downhill very steep and then make a stop and then becomes a 0, right? So going down like that, and then make a stop and then become a 0. A lot of thinking, okay? This type of problem requires a lot of thinking. It is not really an algebra problem. Okay, let's draw a description. X equals to a, we have a horizontal asymptote, and then x less than a, the curve is going up. X greater than a, the curve is going down. Okay, for your information, as x getting closer and closer to, as x goes to infinity, the slope getting closer and closer to 0. Okay, so we have two tough one coming up. This one is like an upside down M. First of all, I can see that when x is equals to a and c and b, there is a horizontal tangent. So horizontal tangent, horizontal tangent, horizontal tangent. So when x equals to a, b, and c, horizontal tangent, y prime is equals to 0. And then what else? When x is less than a, we have a positive slope, okay, and they are very steep. And then as we are getting closer and closer to a, they becomes less steep. So very steep to less steep. Positive, we have something right here, and then very steep to less steep. There we have something like this, very steep. So this is a very steep, and then this is a less steep. And then when x is equals to a, b, and c, we already mentioned that. And then between a and b, what do we see? It's going down, right? So starts going down a little bit, and then go down more, and then go down even more, and then you will reach to 0, like that. Okay, they are all going down, so we have a piece below the x-axis. So going down, and then eventually back to a 0. And then when x is between b and c, it's going up a little bit more, and then a little bit more, and then eventually you will take a stop like that to reach to c. Okay, so that means you go up, and then eventually you will go back to c. And then when x is greater than c, x is greater than c, and then it will just let go, right? So let go, it will just down a little bit, and then down a little bit more, and then down a little bit more. So they are all decreasing. So they will just go down a little bit, and then a little bit more, and then a little bit more. Again, a lot of thinking, not too many algebra. Okay, so this represents f prime of x. Let's do one more. This one is not that easy. So how do we do this? From, I can see that there is a horizontal tangent at B. So we have a point right over here, horizontal tangent, and then a horizontal tangent. Okay, so when x goes from A to B, so from A, x, and then B, and then they are all increasing, and then less steep. So we have a point right over here, increasing and then less steep. So increasing, less steep, the increasing pattern looks like that. It's going up, going up, and then going up, and then eventually it becomes flat. So going up a little bit, and then eventually becomes flat. And then from B to D, we can just pass C. From B to D is decreasing, and then from less to very steep. So right off from the top, right off from the horizontal tangent line, less steep, and then it will just go very steep, like that, and then take a stop, and then becomes horizontal. Okay, so it will just look like this, and then becomes a horizontal once again. And then from D to E, it will just go up. So D to E, it will just go up, and then eventually it will just becomes less steep, right? So it will just go up and then becomes less steep. Here is what I will do. So eventually becomes very steep, and then once you pass E, it becomes less steep. So we make a turn right over here. So after you pass this point, this is going up like that, right? So the tangent line goes up like that. But after this point, the tangent line becomes this. So from very steep to less steep. So that's how I represent from very steep to less steep. And this is f prime of x. I know this type problem is hard, a lot of thinking. If you still don't understand this, I highly recommend you to watch this one more time, because I agree with you. Have watched this one time is never enough. When I was learning this, I went back and forth many times. All right. I will see you all in the next lesson. Signing out.